In the sprawling cotton fields that once dominated the American South, particularly in the Black Belt region stretching from South Carolina to Mississippi, a haunting tale of human endurance and suffering unfolded daily beneath the merciless sun. Cotton, often called white gold, generated astronomical wealth. By 1860, the Mississippi Delta alone produced more millionaire per capita than anywhere else in the United States. Yet this wealth came at a devastating human cost that many history books fail to fully convey. Life on these cotton plantations was harder than anything we can imagine today. Every single morning before the sun even came up, enslaved people had to walk to the fields. Their bodies were tired and sore from the day before, but they had no choice. The plantation owners made huge amounts of money from cotton, but the people who actually did the work suffered terribly. Solomon Northup wrote a famous book called 12 Years a Slave about his terrible experiences. He said that work started when you could barely see the first light of morning, and it didn't end until it was too dark to see anything at all. On one plantation in Louisiana, the overseer would fire his gun at 4 in the morning every day. That gunshot meant it was time to start working, and it scared everyone who heard it. The workday was incredibly long and brutal. People had to work from before sunrise until after sunset. Frederick Douglass, who escaped from slavery and became famous for speaking against it, said that enslaved people were working by the time the sun came up, and they kept picking cotton until it was too dark to see what they were doing. Picking cotton was much harder than it might sound. The cotton plants had sharp thorns that would cut your hands and fingers. Workers had to use both hands at the same time to pull the cotton out quickly. The thorny parts of the plant would slice their skin like knives. Many people wrapped cloth around their fingers to protect them, but by the end of each day, their hands would still be bloody and raw. Mary Reynolds was someone who had been enslaved and later told her story. She said that picking cotton was like fighting the plant itself. Every handful of cotton you picked was a battle, and your hands showed the damage from every single fight. On some plantations, people were expected to pick between 150 and 200 pounds of cotton every single day. That's an enormous amount, and if you didn't pick enough, you would be punished severely. The heat in the South was unbearable. In states like Mississippi and Georgia, the temperature would often go over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. The air was so humid and thick that it was hard to breathe. But enslaved people still had to work at the same speed, no matter how hot it got. Many people died from heat exhaustion and heat stroke. One plantation owner in Louisiana wrote in his diary that he lost 2 workers to the heat in just one day, but he said that work had to continue anyway. Some plantation owners made people wear heavy clothes even when it was extremely hot. They claimed this was to protect the cotton from sweat, but really it was just another way to make life harder. This practice killed many people because they couldn't cool down their bodies. The need for water was used as a way to control people. Overseers would sometimes pour water on the ground right in front of desperately thirsty workers, forcing them to watch it disappear into the dirt. Water was strictly controlled on plantations. Workers were sometimes forced to drink from dirty ditches or go without water completely. On some plantations, there were only a few water barrels placed very far apart. This meant that people had to walk long distances in the burning sun just to get a drink. Many people got sick from drinking bad water, and diseases spread quickly among the workers. The food situation was terrible too. Most people got only a small amount of cornmeal and maybe a few pieces of salt pork each day. This was barely enough food to keep someone alive, let alone someone doing hard physical work all day long. On one plantation in Louisiana, the weekly food ration was just 5 pounds of cornmeal, 2 pounds of pork, and a pint of molasses. This was supposed to last a whole week for someone doing backbreaking labor every single day. Some plantations had what they called least cost feeding programs. This meant they gave people only enough food to keep them alive and able to work. A doctor's report from 1850 said that the average plantation worker ate fewer calories than prisoners of war were guaranteed to get much later in history. The best food was always saved for the white families who owned the plantations, while enslaved people got whatever scraps were left over. This lack of proper food caused serious health problems. People developed diseases like pellagra and scurvy because they weren't getting the right nutrients. Their bodies literally started consuming themselves just to function. Children who were born into this system often didn't grow properly and had developmental problems. Without good nutrition, people got sick much more easily. The living conditions were crowded and unhealthy. Sometimes 20 people had to live in a space that was only 200 square feet. These tiny, cramped quarters were perfect places for diseases to spread from person to person. The cotton dust that filled the air caused lung problems that lasted for people's entire lives. The sharp edges of cotton plants left countless small cuts that often became infected in the humid environment. The punishment system on plantations was designed to break people's spirits, not just their bodies. The whip was the main tool used to terrorize enslaved people. These weren't simple leather straps, but carefully made instruments of torture. Some had 9 separate pieces of knotted rope or leather, each designed to tear flesh. The sound of a whip cracking could be heard all across a plantation, and it filled everyone with fear. Missing your cotton-picking quota would result in a specific number of lashes with the whip. The punishments weren't random. They followed a cruel system where each pound of cotton you didn't pick meant a certain number of lashes. Some overseers kept detailed records of their punishments like they were running a business. For more serious offenses, people faced even worse punishments like having their ears cut off or being branded with hot metal. Special torture devices were used to control people. Iron collars with inward-pointing spikes were put around people's necks to prevent them from sleeping and cause constant pain. These collars would be left on for weeks or months, causing severe infections and permanent scars. Some plantation owners even invented whipping machines that could deliver a precise number of lashes automatically. Disease was everywhere on plantations. Malaria, especially in the low-lying areas of Georgia and South Carolina, killed countless people during the summer months. Yellow fever outbreaks were particularly deadly. During one epidemic in 1853, the Mississippi Delta lost enormous numbers of people, but work quotas remained the same. Tuberculosis spread rapidly through the cramped living quarters where exhausted workers tried to rest. The cotton itself became an instrument of torture. Its fine dust filled workers' lungs, causing chronic breathing problems. The plant's sharp edges left countless cuts that frequently became infected. Combined with poor nutrition and overwork, these infections created a perfect storm of suffering that killed many people. Pregnant women faced additional horrors. They were expected to maintain their cotton-picking quotas right up until the moment they gave birth. Some women actually gave birth in the cotton fields and then immediately returned to work. The infant mortality rate was staggering on many plantations. More than half of all Barbies died before their first birthday. Medical care was almost non-existent for enslaved people. When treatment was provided, it was often experimental and brutal. Some plantation doctors used enslaved people as test subjects for medical experiments without any pain relief. Basic hygiene was denied, turning minor ailments into fatal conditions. Many plantations had only 1 bar of soap for every 20 workers per month. Escape attempts were met with the most savage punishments imaginable. Professional slave catchers used specially trained bloodhounds to track down people who tried to run away. The geography itself was designed to prevent escape, with clear-cut areas around plantations that gave patrol riders clear sight lines. Captured escapees faced systematic torture designed to serve as examples to others. The economic system behind all this suffering was carefully calculated. Plantation owners kept detailed records comparing the cost of basic medical care against simply replacing people who died. They viewed human lives as nothing more than entries in account books. Some plantations even maintained replacement funds for workers they expected to die from disease or exhaustion. Despite all this horror, the human spirit showed incredible resilience. Enslaved people preserved traditional healing practices and passed them down in secret. They developed coded songs and quilts to share information about escape routes. Even in the darkest circumstances, they found ways to resist and maintain their dignity. The cotton fields of the American South generated enormous wealth for some people, but they were built on a foundation of human suffering that's almost impossible to comprehend. Every cotton ball that was picked, every sunrise that was faced, Every day that was survived was an act of defiance against a system designed to break the human spirit. This history demands to be remembered not just as a catalogue of horrors, but as a testament to human resilience in the face of systematic dehumanization.